Hey everyone, it's Mr. Skin back from Labor Day vacay, and today we'll talk a little Gene Wilder and check out some of his movies with great nudity. We'll catch you up on our Labia Day celebration, as only we can do it at MrSkin.com, and then get you ready to head back to school with some of the all-time greatest high school and college teen sex comedies ever. All that plus the latest TV nudity and more, so stick around and join us for the 9th episode of the Mr. Skin podcast.
The legendary Mr. Skin.
Dude, Mr. Skin.
MrSkin.com.
Skin, everybody.
When it comes to naked celebrities, Mr. Skin knows all and shows all.
Live from Chicago, LA, and New York, it's the Mr. Skin podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Skin from MrSkin.com, and I'm joined, as usual, by the hilarious Jimmy Fela and the stunning Andrea Lowell.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
If you want to see what we're talking about on the podcast today, log on to MrSkinPodcast.com for links, and you can always leave a message on the Skin line at 304-TALK-SKIN. We appreciate you joining us this week, and don't forget to tell your friends about the Mr. Skin podcast. Jimmy, Andrea, how are you guys doing this week?
Fantastic. I'm so stoked about Labia Day.
Hey, no lip service here.
Whoa. Pow.
I'm seriously like amped to get into this. So
yeah, we're gonna get into a whole labia thing. I was working very hard today. When I come into work, these are the important things I have to work on. But
so funny.
Before we get started, really quick, I have to ask Jimmy about his William Shatner night, because I saw you post on Facebook. But I just need to talk to you. What is it like to work with a legend, and how did it go? And tell us a cool story about being with William Shatner.
Well, obviously, you'd ask him what it was like to work with a legend. Hey, come on! I'm 39. I shop at Old Navy. I'll relax now. Yeah, the Shat Man. This needs to be said. Working with William Shatner, because obviously he's iconic. He's just, he's America. Oddly enough, he is a Canadian, but he is America. Like in the fabric of American pop culture, he's such an iconic guy. So working with him, really, it would have been a cool experience no matter how it went. But as it turns out, he was cool, which took it to this other place. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
Because he was cool, I was sad when it was over. I
Really?
worked with like other
So he didn't
celebrities
have
where the
any
highlight
diva
was
moment.
they were there. Would you say? I'm sorry, Andrea?
no diva moments at all. With
No,
him.
no, he was no Andrea Lowell. He was.
No diva.
Stop it! You're the best. You're low maintenance. But the Shat Man. I want to say this. I was working with him because he was hosting a TV show called Gotham Comedy Live. It airs on Access TV. It'll air in January. That's when the show will actually air. So I was helping him prepare like a joke monologue that he'd do at the top of the show. Talk about his career, make fun of his fans. Silly stuff. But I was amazed at, and I think you'll see this when you watch the show, I was legitimately amazed at where he was willing to go. You know what I mean? I figured he'd tell sex jokes, but when he started denying the Holocaust, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I was like, yo, Shat, hit the brakes. No, he was great. He was amazing, Jim. And I would say this. Aside from the fact that he is as cool as he was and as agreeable as he was, the cool story that I got out of it is that he has how could I explain this to you? He's an equestrian guy. He rides horses.
Okay.
And he's 85.
How old is he? He's got to be in his 85.
He's 85, and he rides horses. So, he had, I was on the phone with him writing jokes. I thought that was the cool story. Is he had said to me, he's like, well, I'm on my way to Pennsylvania. I'm going to do this equestrian event, and it's so bizarre. Cause I was just reading a news story about this 21-year-old who fell off a horse and fucking broke everything. Excuse my language.
Right.
The Shat Man is that times 4, riding around doing a Priceline karate chop on a horse at the age of 85. I'm impressed.
He is
It's
one
amazing.
badass dude.
Yeah, no, he's cool and a huge fan of the show, obviously.
Yes.
Well, he's one of my favorite nude scenes of all time was from a 1974 movie called Big Bad Mama with Angie Dickinson, and
Whoa.
I used to love it because when I first started watching cable TV, that was always on where I lived, and one of the things is Angie Dickinson has a sex scene with William Shatner in there, so you do see Shatner's ass in the nude scene. Now, obviously, I was more interested in the Angie Dickinson, but what a career he's had with everything he's done, plus got to have sex with Angie Dickinson.
Wow.
That's funny. No, he was actually talking about sex in our show specifically. He was part of the first interracial kiss on TV.
Oh,
Between
really?
a white man and a black woman. Yeah, there it is. Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura, he kissed her on the air, which is a crazy deal to think. Like in 1967 or whenever it happened. Mm-hmm. Pretty ballsy move by both of them. So yeah.
Well, it's like everything back then that you did was cutting edge. Like when Barbara Eden in on I Dream of Jeannie showed her belly button. That was the first time a woman showed her belly button on television.
By the way,
what I'm saying? Like it was a lot easier to do cutting edge stuff in the 60s.
I've never heard you mention a woman's body without instantly referencing an episode number, a director.
What episode did she show her belly button?
And what the craft services served that day. It was instantaneous. You're the man. But I missed you guys. It's happy to be back. This is a home game. We left.
Yeah.
We saved the galaxy with William Shatner. Now we're back where we belong, talking about labias, which I will say, and then I'll hand it back to you as our intrepid leader. I was dropping my kid off today for his first day of school and just couldn't even get into it. She's like, "Oh, you look like you got a lot to do today." I was like, "You know what? Nice to meet you."
Yeah.
I wasn't going to drop labia a day. That's like second day of school stuff, I think.
Yeah, you don't bring up labia dating your kids. But hey, before I get into that, I did want to mention while we were gone, Gene Wilder died.
Yes.
He did?
And
who's going to take over the Facebook memes now that he's gone?
Right.
They decided?
Yeah. We didn't get to talk about him. And, there were a lot of great tributes online. And I don't want to pretend that I could sit here and do an incredible tribute of Gene Wilder. I remember watching during the week when there was an interview he did with Dick Cavett where in order to do the interview, he told Dick Cavett you have to clear the auditorium. For some reason, a guy that had done all those plays and movies, he didn't want to do an interview in front of a live audience. So I went and watched it online. He's really a fascinating guy. And like I said, I'm not here to give Gene Wilder a big tribute. There's been some great ones online. Right. But I am here to tell you how great some of the movies he was in that had nudity, because that is the one thing I feel very comfortable talking about. And actually, I was looking through his filmography and just some crazy movies that you guys probably don't even know about or remember that there was some nudity in, but also one that I consider an all-time classic that I wanted to get to. But just a little Gene Wilder riff for nudity.
Sure.
One of the movie he did right before Willy Wonka was a movie called Quaxer Fortune Has a Cousin in the Bronx. Now, this is only in the 70s. This was 1970. Only in the 70s would they actually be obnoxious enough to have a movie name that. But in the movie that Gene Wilder was in, Margot Kidder had a great topless scene in that. It's my favorite movie to see Margot Kidder naked. Quaxer Fortune Has a Cousin in the Bronx from 1970.
The Oscar nominated.
Yeah. Do you remember, a little side note on Margot Kidder? I know she had that episode later on, I think it was in the 80s, late 80s or early 90s. I can't remember, where she went a little nuts. I don't know if you remember that. But she hosted Saturday Night Live in the very early days of Saturday Night Live. And I'll never forget, she went up on stage in just a Montreal Canadiens hockey jersey and like nylons, and the jersey came just above, the bush area, or just below it.
Uh-huh.
And I remember as a kid, that was one of the sexiest things to me was Margot Kidder, big boobs, Montreal Canadiens hockey jersey hosting Saturday Night Live.
Awesome.
Great memory for me.
Awesome skin.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to Gene Wilder. He did a movie in 1989 called See No Evil, Hear No Evil with Richard Pryor.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was 1989. There's a great scene with Joan Severance where Joan Severance is in the shower and she has a bunch of soap in her eyes and she's trying to find her purse to get something out of there, and her eyes are closed with the soap, and Gene Wilder happens to be in the bathroom, and you get a great look at Joan Severance. She's a beautiful, she was really a model turned actress, gorgeous woman, a fantastic nude scene, and that movie came out in 1989 called See No Evil, Hear No Evil, another great Gene Wilder moment. But here's the one that I wanted to talk about today, is the movie that is legendary as far as I'm concerned, because it features the greatest PG-13 nude scene of all time.
Ooh.
Yes.
That's
it's
rare.
Yeah, oh, very. It's called The Woman in Red from 1984. Remember this? This is a movie he was in with Kelly LeBrock.
Oh.
You guys remember Kelly LeBrock?
Who doesn't know Kelly
yeah.
LeBrock?
Rock.
You're woo!
Gorgeous.
Love
Gorgeous.
her.
And I actually, and we'll post these pictures at MrSkinPodcast.com, or should I say we'll have
the
links where you
links.
can
We'll
see
have the
this
links.
stuff. Yes, we'll have the links. But what's amazing is it was a funny scene. And by the way, Gene Wilder's in some tighty whities in the scene.
God.
It's hilarious. I went back and watched it today, and I forgot that he's in these like powder blue tighty whities. So, and he was packing, by the way. He was packing. So,
Do you think there
anyway,
was a stuffage going on, or you think that was all him?
You know what?
You never know.
Hey, man, if you got to do what you got to do, if you had to put some rolled up pair of sock in the front part of your tighties, I have no problem with it. But
God.
I was impressed.
Gene,
But anyway,
Gene Wilder has a big young Frankenstein. Revelations.
well, anyway, it's a funny scene where this Kelly LeBrock's husband is walking in on them, and they're in bed, and they're scared out of bed. So she jumps out of bed, and you get full frontal nudity. And not
Nice.
only was it Kelly LeBrock's only nude scene and full frontal, but the fact that this was rated PG is really incredible. And this was just something that would only happen in the 80s, but it's one of my favorite nude scenes of all time. And Gene Wilder was there with Kelly LeBrock for one of my favorite nude scenes.
And that is good Kelly LeBrock, by the way.
That's Kelly
Oh,
LeBrock
yeah.
at the top of her
Yes,
game.
this is
Yes.
Kelly LeBrock
Yeah.
right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Really
God.
great. So I was talking to Maddie D, our executive producer, and I thought, you know what? If we're going to talk about, my favorite PG-13 nude scene of all time, what were some other great PG movies? In other words, hey, you didn't have to have your parents there to see this nudity. And naturally, all of them, or most of them, are in the 80s. One was in the early 90s. But quite frankly, in this day and age, you will not see nudity like this in a PG movie. It's just not going to happen.
No,
There's no way
absolutely not.
it'd
No.
be rated R. But here's one. Do you guys remember Doc Hollywood with Michael J.
Oh,
Fox?
wow.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that Julie Warner skinny dip scene?
Oh man.
Where he was just watching her skinny dip. That was a PG movie. It's
No
incredible.
way.
Yeah, that was from 1991. And by the
Wow.
way, if you don't know who Julie Warner is, everyone knows the movie Tommy Boy. She was the girl that Chris Farley was into.
Yes.
And she's gorgeous. And if you go back and watch that scene, you cannot believe that movie was rated PG when you see how much nudity there was in that skinny dip scene.
Just dripping wet. She looks great.
Yeah. If I had to guess, it was cold that day.
Yeah.
Oh yes, she's nip-tastic in
The
the scene, no
nipple
question.
knots she is sporting.
Yeah, she's nipped out, no question. Well, I mean, it's funny because Michael J. Fox is like wrapped up in a blanket, and she's completely nude coming out of the water, so you know she's going to be nipping. Another one, Ragtime. I doubt you guys remember this movie from 1981, but Elizabeth McGovern had a nude scene. She literally was naked for like 3 minutes. She was topless.
This is the mom from Downton Abbey, yeah?
Yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny that your
Go-to.
My reference
But yeah,
point?
it is.
Yeah.
Downton. How do you say it? Downton Abbey. Yeah,
That's right.
She's the mom in that. But back in 1981, she was an up-and-comer. I remember I went on Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast as a guest.
Yeah.
And Gilbert cited this as one of his favorite nude scenes of all time because he's a big fan of what we call Gilbert nudity, where he just likes when people are naked, but they're not, they're just doing mundane things.
Yeah.
Like, doing their typing or their taxes or whatever it is.
That's funny.
He doesn't like sex scenes. He just likes the girls naked. I thought that was very funny.
Gratuitous nudity.
Yeah, but that was a PG scene, and that went on for quite some time.
Wow.
Another one it was Swamp Thing with one of my favorites, Adrienne Barbeau. If you were a fan of those Kurt Russell movies or Burt Reynolds movies in the 70s, you saw her pop up in a bunch of them. And
Wow.
God, you might know her as the daughter from Maude also. But Adrienne Barbeau was huge.
Can I ask a question about Swamp Thing?
Yeah.
Was Swamp Thing part of that film series where you had to get the 3D glasses at 7-Eleven? Do you remember that in the 80s around the time this came out?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I saw it. It wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't because I remember I remember when it came out in DVD, even they added this as an extra scene. I definitely know I wasn't wearing 3D
just going to say,
when I was watching Adrienne Barbeau topless. That I would have.
This is
Could
an
you
amazing...
imagine like her huge natural breasts coming at you in 3D? She has some of the best boobs in the biz.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of stuff that was on television. I don't think that would be
okay.
that would have been like some crazy.
They couldn't have rocked that. That would have been a big scandal.
Yeah,
we flipped
Revenge
out
of
over
the Creature and all that on television.
We flipped out over Janet Jackson's nipple in like 1998. There's no way we did 3D breasts in 1982. You're right.
Yeah, no.
Good point, Jimmy. Good point.
I tried.
No, that's a good, But Adrienne Barbeau and Swamp Thing, by the way, was PG. And then finally, I got to mention last of my great PG nude scenes was Daryl Hannah in Splash when she jumps the railing and it's the rear view. And by the way, Andrea, we talk rear burger every once in a while, but you could see rear burger as she not only is this just a PG scene, but if you look closely, there's Daryl Hannah rear burger as she's walking, towards the Statue of Liberty, completely nude. So these are great moments in PG-13 nudity in honor of Gene Wilder, who was in the greatest ever PG-13 nude scene with Kelly LeBrock.
Fantastic. And
there it is.
Seeing Daryl Hannah's rear burger really gets my palate wet for the Labia Day segment.
Yes. So we do have to get into the Labia Day stuff and what happened here. And the reason this came up is so at MrSkin.com, and Jimmy, you could relate to this when you're running a skin pyre here. We're always trying fun ways to promote our website, especially for the different holidays. And for example, I know I think it was last year, within the last couple of years during Labor Day, we did the, induced Labor Day where we showed famous nude and pregnant in a movie scenes. So that was like the theme for that weekend. And I remember it was like Rachel Weisz and Constant Gardner. Remember Demi Moore in The Seventh Sign where she was pregnant?
Oh, that was a creepy ass movie.
Yeah, real. And Tandy Newton in Beloved, the Oprah movie where she was nude and pregnant. But and I also remember I think we did Catherine Hahn, who you might know from Bad Moms with Mila Kunis and Kristen Bell.
Yeah.
She was on HBO's Hung with Thomas Jane, where she was a pregnant woman. But that was like the theme for that day. But this weekend, I'm sitting at home, and we have a mail list of about 200, and literally mail list of 200,000 people on our mailing list, and I'm not in the trenches with my guys that coming up with these ideas. That literally my crack staff here, from the content department to the editorial department, they kind of come up with the themes now. I let the troops handle it, and I'm amazed sometimes what they come up with. So I open my mail. It's Friday, and it was Friday before Labor Day weekend, and I get in my mail celebrity. It was Labia Day at MrSkin.com. It was celebrity labias, and we did a playlist. So it was, famous moments where celebrities show lips. So that's how we at MrSkin.com celebrate Labor Day. So to give an example.
So this is why we couldn't tape a show yesterday?
Yeah, this is why I was too busy to do it on Monday. Yeah, so as an example, and this is fun stuff. These are girls you would know, you guys have heard of. That in a movie or television show, either accidentally or on purpose, showed lips. And it quite, as you could guess, this is more on the rare side. This doesn't happen, or should I say medium rare, but it doesn't happen that often. So it's kind of cool when you find this. So a great recent example, a couple weeks ago, Matt, I think it was a couple weeks ago, the Shameless season 6 came out on Blu-ray, and I'm a big fan of Shameless on Showtime. One of the great shows on television, great shows for nudity that we track at MrSkin.com. So there was a scene where Emmy Rawson, the star of the show, was kind of swinging her legs to get out of bed, and we had seen this on cable,
right?
But when it came out on Blu-ray, as you guys know, 6 times the resolution of DVD, as she swung her legs out of bed, lippage. And guys, you could see this if you look at this.
I'm zoomed in.
Matt, are you zoomed in?
I'm zoomed in.
Isn't this incredible? This was my staff, the crack staff in the content department, discovered this. You see full labia as she's swinging her legs to get out of bed. It's pretty awesome.
Mr. Skin, when I first saw this on cable, and you and I had discussed it previously, we thought it was a single labia. Am I looking at the whole cookie here? Because this looks like two separate labia.
Looks like Homer Simpson.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, are we seeing Emmy Rossum's whole enchilada?
Yes. It's
I'm
incredible.
So over the moon.
And believe it or not, believe it or not, that and this is one of those things. I think if you were watching this at home, it would just go by it. But we go through Jimmy. We go through this stuff frame by frame. Very important.
This is your own little Zapruder film. I love this.
Yeah. So anyway, we found that, but there's more, guys. It's not just Emmy Rossum. One that I think was pretty intentional was Bijou Phillips and Bully, a Larry Clark movie from, about how long was it now ago? It was probably about 10 or 15 years ago. But my God, he zoomed in on her in her little underwear, and you get some lippage there. That's kind of an intentional one where the director intended to show it. Another one I would say definitely was in our Labia Day playlist was Rosario Dawson in a movie called Trance from 2013. And she is fully shaved, Andrea, so much easier to see labia in that. But this is incredible. This was high def. I can't believe she did this, especially with how great a body.
I was going to ask you that, Skin. That's her real body?
Real. Wow. Everything's real.
I don't even mean like she bought her boobs. I was almost looking as if like she looks thicker and more, like looks like there's more of her than I think in looking at her in her day to day. Yeah, that's some special stuff right there.
This is truly one of the great nude scenes I've ever seen because of just how just
how raw it is.
The level of detail of this scene is incredible.
And the fact that she was just so fearless as an actress to be like, you're going to see my full titties, you're going to see my full pussy. Like, here it is. Not going to do a landing strip. No. Not trying to cover it. I mean, full splittage. I mean, you can see it. You can see it all. Woo!
Yeah, so that was in our Labia Day playlist for sure. Rosario Dawson and Trance. Another one is Elizabeth Berkley and Showgirls. Remember that? I mean, my God, that she did a couple lap dances and then she was up on stage. And another thing about this, real quickly, is not only did she do the scene, you see her up on stage, but there was a moment. Do you remember when? In the movie Showgirls, towards the end of the movie, when she goes to kick the crap out of Andrew Carver, the guy, he like raped her friend or whatever. So she goes there to like seduce him first and then just beat the crap out of him. But what happened was when they filmed the movie, unbelievably, she didn't wear underwear. She was wearing the she was wearing the short leopard skin. Not leopard skin, but a leopard, designed skirt, but it was short. Mm-hmm. How she didn't wear underwear is beyond me. But when you watch the movie or saw it on DVD, when it came out, the angle you couldn't see, you couldn't see nudity. But what happened was sometime in the early 2000s, it aired in a different aspect ratio on cable television.
Okay,
and we happened to tape it. And what happened was you literally see her full vagina when she goes to kick Andrew Carver in the face, but only from that different aspect ratio that aired on cable television. It's not. It was a different aspect ratio that you would have seen in the movie or on the DVD or a video or however you had seen it up to that point. It was really an incredible find.
Is there a name for the type of presentation she has going on? She kind of has the whole thing like wrapped in a tight oval hair. Like, what is there a term for that, Andrea? What does that look called?
I have no idea.
That's called beating the crap out of Andrew Carver hair.
We're going to have to, I mean, that's definitely a high kick, fully open. We're going to have to come up with some sort of terminology for this because it's one of a kind right now that I know of.
Yeah, and I'm specifically talking about, like her actual nether region presentation. It's a good look. I think we've all seen it before.
I don't think she expected it to show up because, like I said, if you went to the theater, the first iterations of the DVD or Blu-ray, it didn't show up. It only was on this different aspect ratio version that aired on cable television. So one of our great finds, and that was definitely on our Labia Day celebration. Hey, I want to move on, but last but not least, you cannot properly do a Labia Day playlist without the most famous Labia shot of all time, which is Sharon Stone and Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And we even skin visioned that for you, Jimmy. So in case you weren't sure where to divert your eyes, we made sure it was easy to find.
Always going the extra mile.
It's the kind of team we are at MrSkin.com. But yeah, that was fun. We had a lot of fun for Labia Day.
I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think we should get a petition going to get Labia Day observed as a national holiday, because this just rocked my boat.
Well, you definitely should get work off on that day, because that's very important. So. Now, also, Jimmy, I wanted to say, I noticed that you mentioned you took today was the first day of school for your kid today? Now, I like the Tuesday after Labor Day. I think that's when school should start. Like, my kids started a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of like we don't get a lot of nice weather in Chicago, and August and September is when you actually have nice, beautiful weather. You hate to have the kids back. I always like my kids in school, but in fairness, it's probably would be better to start when you said. I don't know why you start then and we're 2 weeks earlier. Some people were like a month ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I do think it has to do with hot. I think because in New York, like, it's hot. The hottest moments of the year are usually late August, and I don't think they air condition the schools or whatever the hell it is. But I do like the day after Labor Day, because you really like hit the ground running, and it gives Labor Day like an emotional significance.
Yeah.
You know, because having Labor Day and then they're like off for 2 days, then they go back for like a half day it's too coddly.
Yeah, I feel you.
Well, when I was a kid, it was always the Tuesday after Labor Day was the first day of school. So because of that, I put together a little back to school special for you guys, because I'm treating this week as even though my kids weren't been in school 2 weeks, I'm treating this week as our back to school week at MrSkin.com and for the podcast today. So what I did for you guys is put together my kind of my favorite high school and college movies for nudity, and this includes some of the great teen sex comedies of all time. I think, and I've talked to you guys about this before, but from my era, because I'm maybe a little older than you guys, or a lot older than you guys, but like Porky's, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Revenge of the Nerds, like, to me, that's from that golden age, 1980 to 1985.
Right.
Which to me is where, for what I do for a living, the greatest movies of all time were made in that window, and that's when teen sex comedies were at their peak, no question about it.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone can argue with you about that. That was the golden era.
Well, it totally was, and then there was a dip. You know, when the John Hughes movies came out, I've talked about that before too, where, Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller were commercial hits. And a lot of it, really, to be fair, studios kind of realized that they'd make more money by softening the content and kind of expanding their potential audience, right? I mean, if you're looking at it strictly to make money, but John Hughes is we talk about, he was, kind of to blame here, because he had so much success with Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and Ferris Bueller, which were considered teen comedies, but they lacked the sex and nudity that you had in the great era with Porky's and all that. Yeah. So then all of a sudden, what was kind of another great moment in the back to school teen sex comedy movies was American Pie in 1999. Mm-hmm. That is, to me, was like a huge movie, because all of a sudden you could have nudity and sex and make money. And then there was all those movies like Road Trip and Idle Hands and Varsity Blues and Bring It On that were way more sexy than the John Hughes movies of the mid 80s.
Right.
Shannon Elizabeth and Tara Reid. Wasn't Tara Reid the other American Pie girl?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there was and that Shannon Elizabeth. Oh, yeah. That Shannon Elizabeth nude scene is definitely in one of my top 25 nude scenes of all time. I am such a big fan, and I got to tell you a funny story. I was at this was in the early 2000s. Sam Adams the beer company did a thing where they had a bunch of radio shows out to their brewery in Boston.
Okay.
And they needed people to be guests to tour all the radio shows, and they picked me to be one of them. And this is just when I was starting the business. So I'm out there, and it was just after American Pie had hit it big and they were starting to do the sequels. Well, I'm on an elevator in the hotel, and Shannon Elizabeth and I are in the elevator, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God. I know. I couldn't even talk. She looked and she looked beautiful in person, by the way. No question about it.
I bet.
Yeah.
How tall is she, Skin?
She was like 5'10" I want to say 5'9".
Wow.
She was tall drink. Yeah, definitely. But really beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was, in those very few times in my life I've been, in the same room as celebrities, it's always very awkward because, like, what am I going to say to a celebrity? Right?
Nice titties.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, you're on my website. Yeah. But now, so I was talking to my friend, former head writer for my MrSkin.com, and author of the upcoming book, Going All the Way, The Ultimate Guide to Teen Movie Comedies of the VHS Era. That's Mike McPadden, who I'm very close with. And he's just, I consider him one of the ultimate experts on this subject. And we've talked about this before, and I'll ask you guys the question. Do you think the teen sex comedy as we know it from the Porky's, Revenge of the Nerds, Fast Times, do you think those will ever come back? I mean, I'm talking about all the crazy stuff you used to see in those movies. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, man. I've never thought about it, but
yeah, right. Yeah, you guys have other things going on in your life.
No,
right?
but I doubt it, because there was something so special about that type of nudity and the way it was shot. Everything's so overexposed now. I just don't think it will ever have that kind of emotional and sexual reaction that we initially had from it, just because there's so much overexposure now. But there was something very just beautiful and special about that type of nudity that I just haven't seen lately. I can't put my finger on it.
One of the things that like I was talking with McP about, is the fact that back in the 80s, when you had Porky's and you had Fast Times and Revenge of the Nerds, nudity was the big deal. Like, that's why we watched the films. I remember Amy Heckerling being interviewed on Gilbert's podcast. I know I bring it up a lot, but they talk movies and from this era. And she was saying that Phoebe Cates didn't want to do the nude scene.
Right.
And she was adamant that has to be in the movie. And quite frankly, would we remember Fast Times if it wasn't for that nude scene? As great of a movie as it was.
I wouldn't know who Phoebe Cates is if it weren't for that scene.
Yeah, think about that.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Like, nudity was the main selling point. But to us guys back then, we didn't have the internet or cell phones or ways to see nudity. So that's why we all ran to the theaters to see those movies. And it would be tough to, in this day and age, I don't know if kids if it would be as big a deal.
No, it was so
kids,
exciting and so wrong, and you're seeing something you're not supposed to see, and it was just so cool. And the excitement level, even as a female, I'm telling you, seeing this stuff was like, oh my God, I'm seeing it.
No,
Exactly.
honestly, porn is ruining everything.
Yeah, like straight up.
Including my marriage. Okay.
No, I know, but that's part of it. I think that another thing, and here's something that, Jimmy, you probably might agree with this, but if you think about the things that happened in those movies from the 80s, like I think about Last American Virgin with the whole abortion thing, and then I think about Revenge of the Nerds with the spying into the sorority, or even like something like Zapped, which where Scott Baio had telekinetic powers, which he used to rip people's clothes off. Right in this politically correct day, could you imagine like Porky's, even with the peeping into the locker room? Like there'd be such outrage over all the stuff that happened in all the movies that I love. Not that I condone obviously rape or any of that or any of this crazy stuff, but can you imagine all the stuff that was in those movies in the 80s playing out today with all the political correctness? I just can't imagine.
God.
No.
First of all, why are they objectifying women like that? I don't like that at all.
I remember there was even in Revenge of the Nerds when Robert Carradine, he wears this, do you remember he wore this Darth Vader mask, and he's with the sorority girl, she thinks it's her like jock boyfriend.
Yeah.
So we're watching this laughing, and it's it's a funny thing. Now in today's, that's rape. You know what I'm saying? It's
Absolutely.
Like it is. I get it, but it's just all the things that were in those movies from the 80s, it would be really hard to duplicate today. It really would.
Yeah, people just get so offended by everything. Clearly, that movie was a comedy. Clearly, everything was a farce and satirical. But people are just too damn sensitive nowadays.
I just think it would be really difficult to do those. I just don't think we're ever going to have an era like we did from 1980 to 1980.
We can't.
I just don't think.
You're right, Skin, but I have to say this. If we could have one, I do think it would help us because we'd loosen up about something.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, the country's kind of taking everything a little too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think Porky's helped, because I feel like everybody got along better when we were doing stupid sophomoric stuff.
Yeah.
Even like, I know in the 80s, and even into the 90s, there were a lot of like gay jokes and stuff. And it was, there was like when you were a kid, you'd make those jokes. And I get it, it's hurtful and all that. But those were things that made those movies funny, and all the craziness and all the things that happened that just today would not play, would not play well. But they had incredible nudity, which works in any decade. So, but we'll see. I'm both me and McP, when I talked to him, we're pretty pessimistic that we're ever going to see movies that are as raw and crazy as Porky's and Fast Times. And
I have
Revenge
to
of the
say,
Nerds and all
Mr.
that.
Skin, I'm a little disappointed that my all-time favorite movie, Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, is not on your Back to School list.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, no, that's another movie. Listen, there's about 60 movies I could have talked about. Yeah, yeah. Eventually, we have to end the podcast. But yeah, I could do like a series on teen sex comedies, because it's like some of my favorite movies that I would watch on cable TV growing up. But anyway, I know we're going long here, and I did want to get to some TV stuff that. I always like to kind of update you guys on what's going on television.
Yeah.
And we're in an in-between stage. And by the way, next podcast, I'm going to do a whole back all the fall TV stuff and get you up to speed on all these cool shows we should be checking out, plus some cable shows that are looking like are going to have a lot of great nudity that I want to get to. So the next podcast will feature a big kind of a fall TV preview thing and get you guys up to speed. But
awesome.
there was a few things I did want to mention. There's a show on, how do you say it? FXX? Is that
I don't
FXX? Know. Yeah, it's called You're the Worst, and they're in their third season. And I was talking to the guys back in my content department about this, and they were. We've always liked the show. This Aya Cash, that's the female lead in it, and they always had, in the first couple seasons, they'd have some pretty graphic scenes, but it would always seem to be the nudity would be like strategic, or a hand would be over a breast so you couldn't see the breast, or
right.
CGI'd out. And in the first episode last week, it airs Wednesday nights on this FXX. Aya Cash had a sex scene, and I gotta say, she showed a lot of butt, some side boob. Now you got to understand, you're not going to see a ton of nudity on real cable, or, I guess you call it basic cable, because of the commercials. But we were pretty impressed that this was the most skintastic episode, and it was the first episode of the third season. So if you're haven't checked that out, it's called You're the Worst, and it's on FXX Wednesdays. And Aya Cash did her best nudity to date, which we were all over at MrSkin.com.
There's some good talking in this scene, by the way.
Oh, yeah. You looking at it at the website? Yeah. Pretty cool. And then a couple other things before we wrap it up. I wanted to mention that Narcos on Netflix, season 2 was released. I don't know if I've talked to you guys about it, but this is that great series. By the way, a lot of people really like it as a show, forgetting about the nudity. It's about Pablo Escobar in the 80s drug thing. And they actually just renewed for seasons 3 and 4. So there'll be more Narcos, which we're excited about. But season 1 was loaded with nudity. I will say season 2 was not as good as season 1, but there was that just came out on Netflix, and there was there were a couple very good nude scenes. Just season 1 was so strong that it's going to be hard to match that. But season 2 is out, and we're all over that at MrSkin.com. That's Narcos, which is a Netflix series, and we chronicled all that nudity at our website. And last but not least, I wanted to mention this is breaking news, Jimmy and Andrea. But
oh man,
yes, Lindsey Vaughn, the guys in content were showing me this today. I had to share it. I thought it was funny. So. She was dating? Didn't she date Tiger Woods? She's like an alpine skier.
Oh,
I want to say.
Yeah, that
yes,
chick.
yes,
I'm like, how do I know her name? Yeah.
And she, she dated Tiger Woods. She's an alpine skier. But there's a show on, I think it's on NBC. It's called Running Wild with Bear Grylls. Do you guys know about this? And he's like a. He's this. He's
a survivalist and adventurer. Yeah.
He takes celebrities out on this, I guess, like rugged terrain.
Yeah.
And anyway, he had Lindsey Vonn as a guest. So at some point they're going swimming and she strips down into her bikini, but then my guys were pointing out that the bikini in the back is kind of coming down and you get some upper butt crack from Lindsey Vonn. So
nice.
This is the kind of stuff we actually take time to all crowd around a computer and look at. But if you haven't seen this is breaking half nudes at MrSkin.com. And you could, if you wake up at the crack of Vaughn, you can see this. But it's really the kind of this is a very immature moment, but it is Lindsey Vonn, and you get to see about a quarter of her butt underwater when her bikini bottom goes down.
She's got good glutes. When she's swimming downward, you can actually see the muscle. She's got good glutes.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does. So this was, I just wanted to share, I just thought it was funny that for whatever reason, we're taping Running Wild with Bear Grylls.
Because you can't miss a thing. You can't
no
miss a
stone
thing.
unturned at MrSkin.com.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, but so like I said, next week, we got to wrap this up for today, but next week I'll be doing a whole kind of a fall TV preview. And guys, there is so much TV nudity. I hope I could squeeze it into 45 minutes, but I'll figure out a way. And hey, I also wanted to mention that if you go to MrSkinPodcast.com/survey and fill out our survey about our podcast, because, we want to do a better show as best we can. Survey really helps to get some comments from the listeners. And we've had a ton of people fill it out. I think if you do, Maddie D's telling me you can win a Google Chromecast.
Nice.
I still don't even know what that is, but I'm sure it's a cool gift. And or a 1-year subscription to MrSkin.com just for filling that survey out. So MrSkinPodcast.com/survey. Check that out. And anyway, so guys, be ready. I'll have a lot of TV stuff to talk to you about next week in our 10th episode of the Mr. Skin podcast.
Can't wait.
Exciting.
Excellent,
all right,
Mr.
guys.
Skin. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Skin. See you guys.
MrSkin.com. Fast forwarding to the good parts.